There is something most women don't realize they're doing wrong, and it has nothing to do with their skincare routine, their wardrobe, or even the cut of their hair. It has everything to do with color. The color sitting on top of your head right now could be quietly adding years to your appearance without you even knowing it. I know that might sound surprising. We spend so much time thinking about the right haircut, the right clothes, the right makeup, but hair color? That often gets overlooked. Or worse, we stay loyal to the same shade we've been using for decades because it feels familiar, because it feels like us. And I completely understand that. But what felt flattering at 30 or 40 can work against you in ways that feel subtle but matter deeply. Here's what's interesting, and what this video is really about. The problem isn't just about going gray or covering gray. It's about which specific colors, which tones, which choices are quietly stealing warmth and life from your face. And on the flip side, there are colors, some of them surprisingly simple, that can genuinely make you look more radiant, more youthful, and more vibrant than you have in years. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 hair colors that tend to age women after 50. And then, because this is not just about what to avoid, we're going to talk about the 3 colors that can truly work in your favor and why they do what they do. Stay with me through all 8, because the 3 at the end, those might surprise you in the most wonderful way. Let's begin. There is a certain boldness to jet black hair that many women have loved for their entire lives. It feels dramatic. It feels strong. And for many decades, it was a look that truly worked, framing the face with contrast and confidence. But here's what changes after 50, and it comes down to something very simple and very biological. As we age, our skin gradually loses some of its natural pigment, its underlying warmth, and its rosy undertone. The same process that brings gray into our hair also quietly shifts the tone of our skin. What this means is that the deep, stark contrast of jet black hair, which once looked striking against a warmer, plumper complexion, can now feel jarring. Instead of framing your face beautifully, very dark black hair begins to pull attention toward imperfections, toward shadows, toward every fine line and subtle hollow. The contrast becomes too sharp. Our brains, when they see high contrast between hair and skin, unconsciously read the face as more aged, because the skin needs to carry that contrast, and skin that has softened over time simply cannot do it the way it once could. Here is what makes this particularly tricky. Women who have been coloring their hair jet black for many years often feel like they look like themselves when they see that dark color. It's become part of their identity. And there is nothing wrong with loving a dark shade. The problem is specifically the blue-black, cool-toned, almost no warmth variety that reads harshly under both indoor and natural lighting. The difference between harsh and flattering in this category comes down to warmth. A dark brown-black with warm undertones, or a softer deep brunette, can carry a similar feeling of richness and drama without the skin-draining effect. Adding even the slightest warmth, a whisper of chestnut or mahogany, changes everything. Think of it this way. Imagine holding a stark white piece of paper next to a softly warmed ivory fabric. Both are pale, but the ivory feels gentle, lifted, luminous. The stark white makes everything next to it look slightly washed out. Jet black hair on mature skin creates a similar dynamic in reverse. It is the contrast pulling all the light away, leaving the skin looking more tired than it truly is. The shift does not have to be dramatic. Even softening to a very deep espresso with warm brown or red undertones can make a remarkable difference. It keeps the richness you love, while giving your skin the grace it deserves to glow rather than recede. If you have been loyal to jet black for years and aren't ready to let go of dark hair completely, I completely understand. The invitation here is not to abandon the dark tones you love. It is to let a little warmth back in, just enough to let your skin breathe and your face come forward. That single shift, barely visible in the bottle but radiant in the mirror, could be the most flattering thing you do all year. Now, let's talk about a color that seems like it should be a safe, elegant choice, and that is the cool, ashy gray blonde. You see it everywhere, in certain corners of the beauty world. It looks wonderfully editorial in photographs. It looks deliberately sophisticated and modern. And for some women, particularly those with very cool, porcelain-toned skin and naturally rosy undertones, it can work beautifully. But for most women over 50, ashy gray blonde is quietly one of the most aging choices available. And here is the reason why. When we strip warmth from our hair and layer cool, flat gray blonde tones over it, we are essentially removing the last remaining contrast that our hair provides against our skin. After 50, our skin often has less of its natural peachy or golden warmth. Our eyebrows may have lightened. Our lashes are not as dark as they once were. The natural framework that helped define our facial features has softened over the years. And when our hair also goes flat, cool, and colorless, something happens. Everything starts to blend together. The face loses its frame. Features that should stand out gently begin to recede. The overall impression is one of washed-out paleness, not radiant silvery luminosity, which is something completely different and actually beautiful, but a kind of flattening that reads as fatigue more than elegance. There is an important distinction to make here between cool-toned ashy gray blonde and what we might call luminous silver or warm platinum. Those are entirely different, and we will get to one of them later when we discuss the colors that genuinely help. The distinction is in the undertone and the dimension. Ashy gray blonde that drains tends to be flat. It has no movement, no depth, no variation. It sits on the hair in one single cool plane. And that flatness is what communicates tiredness. It is not the gray itself that is the problem. It is the complete absence of warmth or dimension. Think about sunlight on water versus a flat gray concrete wall. Both can be described as light in color, but one shimmers, catches the light, creates depth. The other absorbs the light and stays dull and heavy. Hair color works the same way. Dimension and warmth are what create the shimmer. Women who are drawn to lighter, softer hair as they age are often responding to something completely correct. The instinct that very dark or very saturated color is too much. That instinct is right. But the solution is not to go flat and ashy. The solution is to go warm and luminous. That is a very different destination. If you have been living in ashy gray blonde territory and feel like something is off but you can't quite place it, this might be the answer you've been looking for. A few warm, honey-toned ribbons of highlight through that same hair could transform it from draining to stunning. Red hair has a long and glorious history. There is something inherently magnetic about a woman with beautiful red hair. It carries fire and warmth and personality in a way that few other colors can. And for women who have colored their hair red for most of their lives, it can feel like an essential part of who they are. But there is a very specific type of red that begins to work against women after 50, and it is important to be precise here because not all red is the problem. The problem is the flat, single-process, overly saturated red, the kind that comes out of a box in a very uniform, unbroken, almost artificial tone. The kind that is deeply pigmented from root to tip with no variation, no dimension, no softness around the edges. Why does this age? A few reasons, and they work together. First, as our skin matures and softens, highly saturated, bright colors in our hair create a stark imbalance. The hair becomes the loudest thing in the room. It draws attention so forcefully that it can actually make the face look more tired by contrast. The vibrancy of the color throws the natural softness of mature skin into sharp relief. Second, a flat, uniform red has no light-catching quality. Real, naturally red hair, even deeply auburn natural hair, has variation. There are darker pieces near the roots, lighter copper tones at the ends, occasional russet highlights that catch in sunlight. It moves and breathes. A flat box color red does none of that. It sits there in one single, unchanging plane, and over time, as it fades, it tends to go brassy or dull in a way that can look neglected rather than intentional. Third, very bright, cool-toned reds, the ones that lean toward burgundy or blue red, have the same skin-draining quality as jet black. They introduce cool, dark tones against a complexion that has softened and needs warmth. The reds that work beautifully after 50 are the warm ones, rich auburn, soft cinnamon, deep copper with golden undertones. These are colors that actually complement and enhance the skin rather than competing with it. They add warmth to the face. They catch the light in flattering ways. They feel human rather than artificial. So if you love red hair, if red is part of your soul, Please do not hear this as permission to give it up. It is absolutely not. What it is an invitation to revisit which red you're wearing. Bringing in some dimension, some depth variation, some warm undertone rather than a cool one, can keep you in the energy of red hair while making it look like something alive on your head rather than a single painted tone. A great colorist can take even a flat box color red and introduce warmth and dimension with a few well-placed highlights or a gloss. It changes everything. Here is one that surprises many people, because platinum hair in the beauty world has had such a long reign as something edgy, fashion-forward, and undeniably striking. And at certain life stages, on certain skin tones, platinum genuinely can be extraordinary. But there is a very specific version of platinum that becomes one of the most aging choices a woman over 50 can make, and that is the overly toned, cool-toned, almost violet-inflected platinum that stylists sometimes call silver white. This is the platinum that has been heavily toned with purple or blue to eliminate all warmth, to push it away from yellow and into the very cool, almost icy territory. Here is the issue. When you take hair to that level of cool pallor, and the skin no longer carries the warm, dewy glow it had in younger decades, the combination creates something that reads, visually, as very harsh and very flat. The coolness of the hair and the softened warmth of mature skin do not harmonize. Instead, they create a kind of visual discord, a sense that the hair and the face belong to two different palettes. There is also a practical element. Platinum that leans into heavy violet toning requires very aggressive chemical processing to achieve and maintain. It is one of the most damaging color processes available. And on hair that is already naturally fine or more fragile, which becomes more common as we age, the result is often breakage, thinning, and a texture that looks dry and brittle. Hair that looks damaged reads as aged in a way that goes beyond just the color itself. The irony is that women often go to very light platinum specifically because they want to look modern and bright and youthful. The instinct toward lightness around the face is absolutely right. Lighter tones near the face do lift and open the complexion. But the execution matters enormously. The difference between aging platinum and flattering lightness is warmth and condition. Platinum that leans creamy, that has softness to it, that is healthy and luminous, and has even the faintest hint of gold or pearl, that is entirely different. That can be magnificent. It is the icy, overtoned, brittle version that takes years in the wrong direction. If you love light hair, if light feels like you, stay in that world. Just bring the warmth back in. Even a very subtle shift from cool icy to warm cream changes the energy entirely. Your skin will look more rested. Your features will look more defined. And your hair, freed from overtoning, will look healthier, which is perhaps the most youthful thing any of us can wear. The fifth color that ages women after 50 is less about a specific shade and more about a specific situation, and it is one of the most common ones. It is the look of color that has been left to fade without a plan, grow out without intention, or settle into an uneven, patchy mix that tells the story of neglect rather than evolution. This is important to talk about because for many women, the growing out phase or the fading phase feels temporary. It feels like something they are passing through on the way to something else. And so they wait. They let it go a little longer. They tell themselves they will deal with it next month. And in the meantime, the uneven, patchy appearance quietly communicates something to everyone around them and more painfully, to themselves in the mirror. Here is why it matters so specifically after 50. In younger years, even faded or grown-out color tends to read as casual or effortless. The skin has enough natural glow, and the features have enough natural definition that the hair can be imperfect and the overall impression is still one of vitality. After 50, that margin shrinks. Hair that looks uncared for has a much more significant impact on the perceived age and energy of the person wearing it. And there's also something specific about the visual effect of a hard regrowth line, the clear demarcation between the natural gray or white root and the colored shaft below. It creates a harsh horizontal line across the head that actually draws the eye to the aging and the effort of managing it, rather than allowing the overall look to feel graceful and cohesive. Here is the beautiful thing about this one, though. It is the most fixable item on this entire list. You do not need to change your color. You do not need to go lighter or darker or warmer or cooler. You simply need a strategy. There are so many graceful options available now. Seamless root blending, soft balayage that makes regrowth invisible, a deliberate grow-out approach with glossing treatments that keep everything looking intentional and beautiful rather than abandoned. Gray blending techniques that allow the natural silver to come in gracefully while the rest of the color softens beautifully around it. The goal is never to look like you are fighting your hair. It is to look like you and your hair are in a beautiful, effortless partnership. When there is no visible strategy, when the color looks like something happening to you rather than something you have chosen, it adds years that have nothing to do with your actual age and everything to do with perception. A visit to a skilled colorist, or even just a glossing treatment at home, can transform this situation completely. Intention is everything. And intentional hair, at any shade, always looks younger than hair that has simply been forgotten. So now you know. 5 colors that quietly work against you. And the beautiful thing is, none of this is about giving up color, giving up style, or giving up any part of who you are. It is about making more intentional choices. Choices that work with your skin, your undertone, and the beautiful season of life you are in right now. And speaking of choices that work in your favor, let's take just a moment to talk about the 3 that genuinely lift, brighten, and make women over 50 look more radiant and youthful. The first is warm honey or golden blonde. Not bright, not brassy, but soft and warm, the kind that catches light like late afternoon sun. It warms the skin, opens the face, and blends beautifully as natural silver begins to come in. The second is rich, warm brunette with copper or caramel undertones. This depth and warmth creates beautiful contrast without harshness. It frames the face without overpowering it and keeps the skin looking luminous and alive. And the third, and perhaps the most liberating of all, is natural luminous silver or white. Not the flat gray we talked about earlier, but the genuine silver that comes in with shimmer and life. When embraced fully and cared for beautifully, kept glossy, kept shaped, this is one of the most elegant and genuinely striking looks a woman can wear. It is not aging. It is extraordinary. You do not have to fight your hair. You do not have to chase your 20s. You simply have to choose colors that celebrate exactly who you are today, warm, alive, radiant, and full of everything that comes with experience and grace. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path.